Ah, you caught me in an unexpected situation. I was just tending to a grimy sink when an old acquaintance stumbled upon me, poking fun at my actions. Thought you were aiming for bigger things, huh? He quipped, clearly surprised to see me in this role. I couldn't help but chuckle at his reaction, as my journey has taken an unexpected turn since our school days. You see, ever since I was young, I've been drawn to the idea of justice and heroism. I'd don a makeshift cape and rush around, dreaming of being a courageous defender of the weak. My classmate Steve shared a similar aspiration, and we often engage in playful battles, each striving to become the ultimate hero. But life has a way of reshaping our paths, and I found myself veering away from the traditional notions of heroism. Instead, I discovered a deep fulfillment in serving others in a more hands-on, practical way. So here I am, taking pride in maintaining the cleanliness and order of this facility, playing a part in ensuring the comfort and well-being of those who pass through. It may not be the flashy heroism I once envisioned, but it's a role that aligns with my core values. As my old friend stood there, speechless, I couldn't help but reflect on how our perceptions of success and heroism can shift over time. Sometimes, the true measure of a person's character lies in the simple, yet profound acts of service they undertake, rather than the lofty titles they hold. The desire to be the top hero was just as fierce in both of us. We often clashed, each insisting that we were the greatest hero. Our hero role-playing games frequently turned into heated debates. I'm going to be the main hero. No way, I'm the one who gets to be the main hero. Whenever my friends and I tried to decide who would play the lead part, Steve would always butt in, claiming it for himself. What are you talking about, Steve? You joined in late, so I'm the main hero. That's not a rule. I'm the main hero. This back and forth would continue until the adults had to intervene. Steve and I shared a peculiar bond. We first met in kindergarten, and even then, he was always tormenting me. I was fed up with it. I thought I'd get a break from him in elementary school, but we ended up in the same class in first grade, and again in second and third. It seemed like we were destined to be classmates for all 9 years of mandatory education. We were always aware of each other, each striving not to be outdone by the other. It was a rivalry, though not the kind that brings out the best in people. The academic rivalry between Mike and Steve was fierce. After each test, they would compare scores, each hoping to outshine the other. When they both achieved the same high marks, it only fueled their competitive spirit further. The desire to be the best pushed them to excel in their studies, yet it also created a tense dynamic between the two. This competitive streak extended beyond the classroom, as they vied for glory in school sports and student council activities. Despite their differences, their relentless drive to succeed helped their team triumph year after year. As a lighthearted jest, the situation left us both feeling uneasy. People often wondered why we couldn't get along, but deep down, we recognized each other as our fiercest competitors. Our rivalry continued throughout high school, as we vied for success in academics, sports, and every other arena. We likely would have even competed to gain admission to the most prestigious college, but everything changed in the fall of my freshman year. Tragically, my father passed away in a sudden car accident. The devastating loss plunged our family into profound grief. I can still vividly recall the scene, my father's smiling portrait, the grand floral tributes, and the soft weeping all around me. The other driver claimed innocence, but we knew better. The accident occurred due to his reckless behavior, smoking, using his phone, and driving under the influence. Yet, he shamelessly denied any fault, exploiting the fact that my father was no longer present to defend himself. He never offered an apology, leaving us outraged and completely bewildered. Fortunately, the dash cam and nearby security footage clearly showed that my father was not to blame. The driver was solely responsible for the incident. Our family lawyer, Bob, was a recent addition to a small firm, but he worked tirelessly to restore my father's reputation. He assured us he would take charge and clear my father's name. Thanks to Bob's efforts, my father's name was publicly cleared, and the responsible party faced severe consequences. We are forever grateful, Bob. This will provide my husband with the peace he deserves, my family said through tears of relief. Even though the responsible party never apologized, it no longer mattered. The most important outcome was that justice had been served. I had started to recover from my despair, and my admiration for Bob fueled my progress. I told Bob, "I want to become a legal expert like you." He smiled and replied, "Like me. That's wonderful. Put in your best effort, and I'll be here to support you." Bob's dedication and success inspired me to pursue a law degree. I set my sights on a challenging university and studied diligently every day. However, as I advanced, I couldn't shake a lingering sense of dissatisfaction, though I couldn't quite pinpoint the reason. Still, I persevered. One day, when I shared my plans to study law, my friend Steve was taken aback. "Really, Mike? You're aiming for that law school too?" A legal professional, he also possessed a strong sense of justice. We were united by the same objective, yet Steve had a rather coarse manner of speaking. I quietly pondered whether he might be better suited for a darker, heroic role than a conventional one. As we now shared the same goal, Steve declared, "All right, I'll be the top candidate. You can simply trail behind me." "I apologize, but I cannot allow that to happen. My dream is at stake," I responded. And just like that, a rivalry between us began. We both studied harder than ever, determined to outperform each other on the entrance exams. To my surprise, that sense of dissatisfaction vanished as I immersed myself in the competition. Deep down, perhaps I yearned for this challenge. Ultimately, we both passed the entrance exams, with Steve narrowly surpassing me by a few points. As a law student, I threw myself into my studies, finding fulfillment in the competition with Steve. But after my father's death, life took another turn. My mother, who had been working tirelessly, collapsed. Years of hardship had taken their toll. While I had a scholarship to cover tuition and managed living expenses with part-time jobs, there were still hospital bills for my mother and exam fees for my twin younger brothers, who were about to face high school entrance exams. They would need money for tuition if they passed, so I cut back on my own expenses and increased my work hours to save every penny. My meals became increasingly frugal, and I quickly lost weight, worrying my friends. But I kept going, driven by a sense of justice for my family, even though it was also a reckless spirit of self-sacrifice. Eventually, my body couldn't keep up. After finishing a night shift, attending lectures all day, and then working another night shift, I collapsed during work. The doctor told me I was suffering from overwork and needed to rest. He advised me to stop doing part-time work for the time being. "But my family needs me," I protested. "Calm down, Mike. If something happens to you, it's all for nothing, right?" The doctor told me that, and I was left speechless. He was absolutely right. At this rate, my family and I would collapse together. Why didn't I realize something so simple? I thought a lot about it while getting IV drips in the hospital. The dream I pursued, inspired by my admiration for Bob, and the need to improve the reality around me. They couldn't coexist. I had to choose one, and that meant giving up the other. My heart made the decision immediately. I couldn't abandon my family. I decided to drop out of university and start working. That was my choice during the last week of college. While handling the paperwork at the university, Steve stopped me. "Mike, is it true you're dropping out?" "What? You knew?" I had told my close friends, but deliberately kept it from Steve. If he saw me as a good rival, my dropping out might demotivate him. That's why I didn't tell him. "Why the heck are you doing this? Giving up halfway like this because you collapsed? Is that enough for you to quit?" "It's part of the reason. There are other circumstances," I replied, as Steve, on the verge of grabbing my collar, had tears in his eyes. "Lucky you. Now that the nuisance is gone, you can become a great lawyer without any distractions, right? Don't joke around. Don't give up so easily. Was your dream just that shallow? Steve's voice echoed through the university entrance, but my decision was already made for my family and health. I couldn't just say I wouldn't quit after all. I'm sorry, I muttered, unable to find the right words. All I could do was apologize. Steve must have realized I no longer had the spirit to compete or fight. He clicked his tongue and walked away, and all I could do was watch his back as he left. Until I could earn a decent living, we managed with the money my father left and what I had saved from excessive part-time work. Though it was tough, my mother's health gradually improved, and my brothers advanced in their education. I resumed part-time work to support our living. Years passed. One day, I was in the restroom of a courthouse I visited for an errand. It was pretty clean, but I noticed some dirt on the wash basin. When my mother was in the hospital, I mostly did the housework. I particularly liked cleaning and often got absorbed in it. I couldn't stand leaving any dirt, a habit from that time. I saw a rag nearby. It might not be my business, but I couldn't leave the dirt alone, so I decided to clean up. I took off my suit jacket, rolled up my sleeves, and wiped the dirty area clean. The mirror caught my attention too, so I polished that as well. As I finished, someone entered, standing in the hallway, admiring my work. I thought I might be in the way, so I quietly muttered an excuse as I moved aside. As I exited the restroom, I made eye contact with the person through the mirror. "Mike, is that you?" The man, wearing a lawyer's badge, called out my name. "Mike, it is you, isn't it?" he exclaimed loudly, his eyes wide open. I recognized him immediately. His hair was styled, and he was well dressed, but his face was unmistakable. Steve Burton, my rival since kindergarten. "Hey, Steve. Long time no see. It's a surprise meeting you here," I greeted him, acknowledging our reunion. In contrast, Steve sneered upon seeing me with a rag in my hand. "What's this? Bathroom cleaning? Did you quit law school to become a fancy janitor or something?" "No, it's not like that," I denied, but he continued to mock me. He couldn't believe the guy who once competed for the top spot with him ended up like this. "I thought you were my rival, but I guess I was wrong," he said. Frustrated with Steve's unwillingness to listen, I put away the rag. "You seem to be misunderstanding something," I said. I washed my hands, dried them with a handkerchief, put on my jacket, and then looked Steve straight in the eyes. "I'm a judge. Well, an associate judge for now." Steve finally quieted down, his gaze briefly flickering away. He must have noticed the badge on my jacket. "A judge? What? Why are you?" "What do you mean, why? You're the one who said it. Don't give up so easily." So, I didn't give up. That's all there is to it. Steve's face froze in astonishment. Years after dropping out of college, my twin brothers were now high school students about to start thinking about their future paths. My mother's health had improved enough for her to be discharged, requiring only occasional hospital visits. Still, I continued juggling construction work and convenience store shifts to support us. One day, my mother called me to a nearby cafe. "What? Remarrying?" "Yes, that's right. And the person is—" "Oh, here he comes now," she said, waving towards the cafe entrance. Turning around, I saw a man about my mother's age approaching us. The person is waiting. "Sir Dr. Thompson, right?" My mother's new partner was Dr. John Thompson, her primary physician. "Mike, I'm looking forward to our future together." "Yes, likewise. I'm looking forward to it too." The awkwardness of knowing my mother's remarriage partner only lasted the first few weeks. John was a very kind and caring person. I felt at ease leaving my mother in his hands. My brothers quickly warmed up to John, bonding with him as if they were a real family. Moreover, both of them began expressing a desire to become doctors like John and wished to pursue medical studies. I was worried about the high tuition fees, but John generously offered to pay for everything. Even though they were his stepsons, he was genuinely happy that they wanted to follow in his footsteps. He also offered to take care of our household finances, saying the money I earned for the house should be used for myself. Suddenly freed from my responsibilities, I was unsure of what to do next. But then I came to a decision. There was still something I hadn't accomplished. The path to becoming the hero of justice I had always admired since childhood, the path of law, which I had entered inspired by Bob. I resolved to re-enter law school and resume my studies. That's the decision I made. My brothers and I enrolled in the same university. They in the medical school and I in the law school. I studied hard again, maintaining the top position in my class. I passed the bar exam on my first try and received high praise during my legal training. This is how I became a judge, but I am still an associate judge. It takes over a decade of experience to become a full judge. I continue to strive, knowing this is not the end goal. The presence of a rival fuels my motivation. Even though I was praised as a top student in law school, I still felt unfulfilled. The fact that I had fallen behind years ago always lingered in my mind. Someday, I will stand shoulder to shoulder with that man, my classmate and rival, and surpass him. That thought has been my driving force. After hearing my long story, Steve stood there looking down. "So that's what happened," he said. I wondered if this man was really Steve Williams. He had such an uncharacteristic expression on his face. "I'm sorry about back then. I knew your situation, yet I only pushed my ideals on you. You must have been struggling too." He regretted what he had said to me just before I dropped out of college. His uncharacteristic words caught me off guard, and I nearly burst into tears. "Why didn't I support you more? I'm really sorry. I regret it." Steve remained downcast. I said, "Look up, man," and put my hand on his shoulder. "Steve, I'm actually thankful for what you said back then. Don't give up so easily. It was because you said that I decided to try again." After leaving college, I honestly thought about giving up on law, maybe getting a job at some average company, and leading a vague, aimless life. After all the struggles I had been through, that should have been enough. That's what I thought. But I couldn't get you out of my head. Your expression at the university entrance, the last time I saw you, seemed to be a mix of anger and sadness. If I gave up, would you get angry with me again? And there was another thing. I didn't want to end up a loser. Steve's family owned a law firm. He was an excellent student, and he would undoubtedly become a lawyer. I had lost to him in the university entrance exam scores and in realizing our dreams, playing the hero, studying the sports festival. Steve and I constantly winning and losing against each other, never once allowing ourselves to be outdone. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that ending my lifelong competition with him as a loss would be like losing a part of my life. That thought was unbearably frustrating. It was these two major reasons that allowed me to make a comeback. That's why I'm grateful to you, Steve. Thanks for getting angry at me back then. When Steve looked up, he met my eyes and gave a slight smile. That's right. You've always been that kind of guy, always competing with me. No matter how much I pushed you away, you'd always claw your way back. Always in my way. No. It was you who was always trying to compete with me, wasn't it? I responded with a smile. Fine then, Mike. Let's have another competition. Who will make it first? Me taking over my father's firm as a director, or you becoming a judge? I accept your challenge. Just don't cry later, okay? That's my line. We bantered, glaring at each other as sparks flew. After a few seconds of this, we both reached our limit and burst out laughing. Ahaha. Oh man, we hadn't changed a bit since we were kids, right? But this is us, isn't it? Always trying to one-up each other. Looking forward to more of this. Yeah, absolutely. Same here, Mike. Our rivalry, which began when we were preschoolers and continued into our college years, wasn't going to end just because we had become adults. We will continue to compete and spur each other on. Though unspoken, Steve and I exchanged a firm handshake, conveying this mutual understanding. Sometime later, Steve and I started to interact as friends, even drinking together. Finally, as we were approaching our 30s, I said, "Wow, you already have a wife and kids." Steve was already married, aiming to be a distinguished director for his family's sake. "What about you?" he asked. "Me? I haven't thought that far ahead," I replied, still single. As I sighed, Steve proudly started talking about his wife and family. "Marriage is great. Kids are wonderful," he said with a smile. In this regard, I knew I couldn't compete with him. Instead of feeling envious or jealous, I just listened with a smile, finding it heartwarming. One day, Steve contacted me and invited me to his house. He was throwing a birthday party for his daughter and asked me to come and celebrate with them. I was worried about intruding on a family event, but apparently, my name was well known as Steve's rival, and they were eager to meet me. "Hi, it's great to meet you," I said as I was guided to the living room. I saw his wife and their daughter running around. "Welcome. My husband always speaks highly of you," his wife greeted me with a gentle smile. Their daughter, seemingly startled by my sudden appearance, clung to her mother's legs. Not wanting to scare her, I crouched down to her level and asked, "Hello, what's your name?" She blushed and hid behind her mother. Seeing this, Steve burst out laughing. "Haha, Mike, looks like she doesn't like you," he said. "Why are you so happy about that?" I asked. When Steve picked her up, she seemed to calm down. Looking straight at me, she said, "My name's Emily." "Is that so? Emily? How old are you?" I asked. Emily got down from Steve's arms and ran to the back of the living room. I watched her curiously as she held up her birthday card above her head, saying cheerfully, 3. Though initially scared, Emily gradually warmed up to me. After several hours, she even brought a book over and sat on my lap. "Read this, please," she requested. "Okay, sure thing," I replied. After I read to her, Emily politely thanked me. It was surprising to see such manners in a 3-year-old. As I patted her head and praised her, she hopped around joyfully. Watching her, I began to think that having kids might be nice. As the day neared its end, it was time to depart. "Are you already leaving?" Emily inquired. "Farewell, Emily." No, don't go." It seemed I had grown unusually attached to her in just one day. She grasped my trousers, making it difficult for me to leave. "Come on, don't trouble him," Steve said as he lifted her up. She appeared on the verge of tears. "Emily, I'll return to play again, I promise." I extended my pinky finger, and she did the same, sealing our promise to meet again. Unexpectedly, Emily kissed me on the cheek. Surprised, I turned to see Steve growing angry. "Hey Mike, what's that about? Don't come back here. I won't let you see Emily anymore," Steve shouted, his face reddening. Then, as if to defy her father, Emily loudly proclaimed, "Why would you say that?" No, I hate Daddy." I was left perplexed on how to respond. Emily was crying, Steve was red-faced, and his wife was smiling at the chaotic scene unfolding at the doorway. The farewell at the entrance had become a chaotic ordeal. As a busy judge, my days are filled with responsibility. The weighty role of a judge holds profound influence over people's lives. Yet, with great authority comes a profound sense of fulfillment. I am resolute in my pursuit of becoming an esteemed judge, a goal I have worked tirelessly to attain. The unwavering support of those around me has fueled my unwavering determination. My father's tireless efforts for our family, Bob's clearing of my father's name and introduction to the legal realm, my mother's steadfast backing even through illness, John's encouragement, and most of all, my family's refusal to let me give up, culminating in Emily's adoration. These individuals are the pillars upon which my life is built. Reflecting on this, I am humbled by the profound impact they have had. For their sake, I am committed to upholding the dignity of the judicial office and striving for the highest standards of excellence. As I gaze at the starry sky on my way home from work, I renew this solemn vow to myself.